and welcome to the Rawkwardness podcast, where every single week we talk to a musician we love about why, how, where, when they started playing music, and what kept them going. And they play us one of the first songs they ever wrote. We're your hosts. I'm Rose Sean.
I'm Terence Leclerc.
And I'm Tony Tancredi.
This is a very special episode of Rawkwardness. I mean, they're all special to me, but our session with Hannah Connolly really did touch my heart. Tony, I'd love to know how you got this sweet-voiced angel to agree to come to the backyard and talk to us.
Well, I met Hannah through Eric Kanata of Young and the Giant. Seems like we talk about them a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
Guests.
Anyways, Hannah is Eric's better half, and she's an amazing songwriter, and I feel so lucky to have coaxed her into coming over to the backyard and doing this interview.
I mean, truly, I'm not joking about this episode being special. We might have all cried.
Yep.
Maybe on
I did.
mic.
No, I moved away from the mic. I was embarrassed.
Oh, no, I was on the mic. It's all there. Not that the whole episode is a bummer. It's definitely not. But Hannah has written some heartbreakingly beautiful songs about loss, and there was just no way we could not talk about them. So I guess this is our trigger warning. This episode does contain some discussion of grief and loss. So if you're not in a place where you can handle that right now, we totally get it. You can come back to this one later. But if you're here for it, here's our hang/therapy circle with Hannah Connolly.
So Barack Obama follows you on Twitter.
No, he doesn't.
He
Yes,
does.
he does. Yes, he does.
Are you kidding me?
Check it out.
Oh my
I
God.
could show it to you. We're doing research and I saw that. I'm like, Barack Obama follows. And I'm like, that's his actual account. I'll show it to
Wow.
It's kind of amazing.
you. Yeah, we're like,
I'm like
I like that
freaking
you
out
didn't
right
know.
now.
I mean, I would be.
here.
What?
I'll show you. Where is it?
He probably listens to your music. He's a big music fan.
Oh my God, I can only hope.
That is the only metric I care
Like
about.
what fluke in the universe like made that? Like some intern probably accidentally liked
It's
me
because
on
I
accident.
follow him, so that's why he pops up. But it's just like, that's him. That's actually his account.
Holy shit.
So there you go.
What is it? What do they call it? Like verified on Twitter or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, you click on it and it's like, yeah, it's verified dad, husband, president, citizen. Welcome, Hannah.
Welcome to Rawkwardness.
Thank
Welcome to
you.
the backyard. Yeah, I just wanted to start out by saying that like I fully sobbed over a plate of leftover Thanksgiving pie this morning listening to your music. So I was like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that.
It's such a scene of leftover Thanksgiving pie.
Yeah, well, I got up, I sat down to like, do a little research on our guests today, and I was like, oh, well, let's hear what they got. Boop. And I was just, maybe 30 seconds in, I was just like, oh God.
Here it comes.
But I mean that in the best way. It just really moved me.
Thank you.
So thank you.
It's always like it's really I feel sad when people say that they cried, but it's also like it's a double-edged sword because it's really nice to know that it moves people and that it connects and like that the story comes across and so yeah, I thank you.
I think
the
like
tear maker.
a bad song will never make you cry. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
At least not in a good way.
Not in a good way.
Like, please make it
Be like,
stop.
oh God, somebody turn it off.
Yeah. Do a lot of people like they come up to you and they tell you that?
It's happened a couple of times. I mean, and there's times too, I think, where someone will come across the music and they'll have maybe a story similar to mine or like a loss and it'll hit them kind of on a really deep level. And so it's happened. I would say it happened a handful of times, and maybe after a show or kind of like out on the road. So
People reach out to you and say like, that really spoke to me.
yeah, and that's been
really nice.
really nice. Like that's been kind of like one of the nicest things to hear, like after making a record that was really hard to make, and to like hear from somebody who, really could relate to it and who maybe like could listen to those songs when I was feeling the way that I did when I wrote them was really nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I'm sorry you're in the club, but the knowledge that you connected with somebody that way is, or that, the feeling that you were putting out there connected with the right people in that way. And it really connected with me. So I definitely want to get back to that subject, but we kind of like to rewind to like a much earlier time in your musical journey.
Yeah.
Around what time did you start just like playing music, and like how did that begin for you?
I think I really started playing or writing my own songs around like maybe 16 or so. I had music in my life from a younger time through just things like musical theater and stuff, which was really fun.
Oh, really? Musical theater?
What kind of plays and stuff were you into?
I did like there was like a children's theater that I did a lot of stuff with, like Annie and
Yeah.
like
Nice.
the Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, like all those kind of like musicals, which was really fun and also like a good way to like learn the basics of music at a young age. And
Sure. It's
Probably also
classic
learn to
stuff.
sing, too.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, during those like rehearsals and stuff, they always had voice choral instructors and stuff. They were teaching you how to sing the parts and stuff. And
Did you play Annie?
I wish I could have.
Oh.
I wanted to be Annie so bad as a kid. I was like, I played Molly though, and so that was really fun too. I was kind of like they have that big troop of orphans in the show, and I was like the littlest one, the youngest person. So kind of like have had all these like big sisters be like, let's go, come on, like little one, let's go do these
Oh,
adventures.
that sounds really fun.
It was a
Yeah.
good time. But yeah, that was kind of like my earliest exposure to music. I did some like girl choirs and stuff in my hometown, and then started writing probably about early high school. My dad had a guitar, and like started getting really interested in like learning how to play the songs I loved, and also just like that's when I first started writing my own stuff. Probably.
Was it an acoustic? What kind?
It was an acoustic. It's a Dean acoustic electric,
Ooh,
and
nice.
so kind of could plug it in and stuff. And yeah, he bought it to kind of pick up and learn guitar. And I feel bad because I kind of like
You
stole it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but like,
Thanks,
was he
Dad.
really
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
it?
Aw.
Every once in a blue, but now, eventually I got my own later, and so he got it back eventually. But there was a few years where I was like, "Can I just take this to college with me?" And like, yeah, he let me do that, so that was nice.
Yeah. Aw, love a supportive parent.
Yeah. What drew you to guitar other than him having it? Did you like guitar music or?
Yeah, I was listening to a lot of like kind of like 90s 2000s like singer-songwriter stuff, and so
Nice. Like who?
I really liked like Ani DeFranco
Yes.
and like
Yes, girl. Yes.
Oh man, and
So-
she really plays acoustic, like those rhythms and stuff. Like
yeah.
I gotta say, she definitely, I think, defied. What do I want to say? Like the normal boundaries of what like an acoustic singer-songwriter, like how an
Oh, yeah.
acoustic
Sure, yeah.
singer-songwriter
For sure.
plays guitar. I was so into her too. I'm very excited that you said that.
Definitely. and I still am too. And I just remember hearing that, like, I think the first time I heard, I can't remember, like, the first time I heard her, I was like, this is so, like, badass. Like, it just made me want to be able to, and I haven't quite gotten there on guitar yet, but it made me, like, really want to learn how to, like, pick up and play. And, like Patty Griffin too. Like I really
my
loved
God, I love Patty Griffin.
Patty Griffin. My godfather had made me like a CD of songs, like inspo for Hannah to listen to and get into, and she was on there, and I think it was Rain for the first time, and I was like, oh, this is
Wow.
nice.
I like Every Little Thing. Patty Griffin. That's a good one.
Wow, your godfather made you a mix. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love sort of gatekeeper, like touchstone people in your life. Those like your own personal tastemakers who aren't like a radio DJ or something. Like it's like your family or your friend or whatever, your older cousin who like.
They're like, here, you have to listen to this,
Yeah,
and then it
I-
like shapes
I
you.
think you're
yeah.
gonna like this, and you're like,
Yeah.
I do.
I do. You
Definitely.
knew me.
Yeah.
I remember like it was like the time of like the earliest iPods, and just like walking between classes in high school, just being like, I have like music in my pocket right now, and I can like listen to these songs and repeat. And yeah, she was definitely on those playlists. So
Yeah, and that's what got you to kind of like practice, basically.
I think like the first like impetus, if that's the right word, for like wanting to like learn and practice and play songs was like a high school talent show, and I was like, I really
No
want to
way.
play.
Totally.
Yeah.
What song did you play?
Oh my God. So I actually covered Ani DeFranco. I covered Both Hands, and like
I did that too.
oh really? Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, that's amazing. So I remember like actually a friend who had taken a video of it sent it to me like not that long ago, and I was
Really?
like
There's
walking.
a video. Oh,
Send it to us, please.
please.
Yes.
I was watching it back, and I was like, this song may have been a little too sensual for like a high school like talent show. Like in
my
hindsight,
goodness.
I was like blushing. I was like, oh my gosh, like this. I was like playing this in front of my teachers.
And you
like,
you probably didn't even like really get it at the time.
not fully,
Yeah.
no. And then listening back to it, it really hit me, and I was like, huh.
Well, they were cool about that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So,
So funny. Yeah, right. It is. The content is a little not safe for high school. I guess.
That was your first show, huh?
one of the first ones, yeah. I think like that, and like maybe the year before I had played as well, and then after that, kind of like my friends were starting to play coffee shops and stuff around where I grew up, which was Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and yeah, we would start playing shows at like the Dancing Goat and like the Acoustic Cafe, so people would
Oh,
just
the Dancing
kinda,
Goat. That sounds
such
awesome.
a cute name.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would go and play coffee shops and stuff, and so those were kind of like the first shows I played.
Amazing. Would it be
Wow.
covers and stuff, or were you
Yeah.
writing?
I was starting to write. I mean, they weren't like amazing songs, obviously.
This is what we're here for.
Yeah. So
Rawkwardness.
that was like, yeah. I was starting to write in like early songs and then doing covers, like probably about half and half, or maybe like a little more covers than originals. But
Oh my goodness. Can we get a tiny snippet of one of those early songs?
oh my gosh, I was thinking about it because like this is the first podcast I've done, and I was like, I'm so glad that this one is called like Rawkwardness because I know I'm going to be awkward. That's like my natural state.
That's what we want. That's
Safe
what we're here for.
space.
So yeah.
All right. Take us to the Dancing Goat.
Yes. Okay, so this was like the first song I ever wrote, and I was like fresh out of like one of my first like high school breakups, and so I was being so emo about it.
Yes.
And I wrote this like in my parents' living room on the Dean Acoustic Electric.
Yeah, of course.
So it was kind of like Peter Pan, you're king of the lost boys, but are you running? Are you running away? Hey, hey. Peter Pan, the North Star is up ahead. I need to know if I should stay or if I should go. It's the same chords over and over.
I love it. No, it's really good.
And then I got at this part, I got so stoked that I could like jam out on the higher strings. So I was like, are you gonna fly or not? 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 Oh, big chord change there.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know, that's the general idea.
Yes. You know, it's funny. It's like you're embarrassed about it. I can see it on your face, but like, it's actually like a pretty objectively good song.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Like, I
Loaded
mean,
with metaphors.
well, first of all, very solid Peter Pan references, like with the North Star and all that.
Yeah.
You know,
Are you going to fly or not?
are you gonna? No, I actually really like that idea of like, well, you're gonna fly or not? Like that's what you do, right? No, and also, I mean, your voice is beautiful, so you could probably sing about like potato chips and it would sound good. But it's funny, right? Like you're like, oh, this was so silly. I was so new at this. I didn't know what I was doing, but it actually sounds good.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I love those
Thanks.
dynamics you discover too with the instrument. You're like, oh, if I play the high strings
Yeah.
now, it's like, whoa.
I know.
Yeah.
I do love that. Yeah, like that, like discovery of like a little trick, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna do that. Yeah.
in my mind at that point, I'm like shredding in the song. It's like the
Yeah, that's like
This is
the
like the-
guitar solo kind of part.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
It's also kind of similar to like a Patty Griffin song. I realized like years later, I'm
totally.
like, it's like that. You know, there's a Patty Griffin song like that's like, "Hey Peter Pan,"
No
and I'm
way.
like, okay, Hannah, like you could have got a little more.
There's a pretty good Dar Williams Peter Pan song too.
Oh really? I need to look that
And
up
and
too.
I
There can never be enough Peter
I was
Pan
going to say,
songs.
I may have also, around that age, perhaps tried a Peter Pan song too.
Nice. Maybe
the
that's
thing you
like the
do.
thing you got to do.
Well, it's
Yeah.
a really, I mean, it is
Yeah.
a really apt metaphor. And it's funny though, like to be a teenager, like where you are still objectively a child, but you don't feel like one, but you know, writing about like somebody who won't grow up, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. Like in sophomore year of high school, to be like, grow up. And
Yeah.
it's like we're all children right now.
Like,
but
are you ever going to grow up, 15-year-old?
exactly.
Yeah, right.
Oh my goodness, you're playing the dancing goat and coffee houses. Where did that take you? How did you end up to the metropolis that is known as the City of Angels?
Yeah. So I actually after high school, I went to college at the University of Minnesota. So moved to Minneapolis and lived there.
My
Home
best
of
friend
Prince.
also went there.
Like, nice. And honestly, it's a very common, I feel like, thing. Like people from like Eau Claire tend to kind of like go to college or go move to Minneapolis or kind of Duluth too. Like Eau Claire, Duluth, Minneapolis. There's a lot of just like crossover and like people that go back and forth and move between all the places. But
Great music town, Minneapolis. Yeah.
definitely, yeah. So that was really like a wonderful place to like kind of get more acquainted with being in a bigger city, like learning how to drive in a big city, like learning how to like, you know, going out and seeing the first live shows that I was really seeing that were at like venues. Eau Claire at the time, you know, now they have a ton of really great music venues, but at the time it was really kind of like a lot of like bars and coffee shops, and to kind of like go and be able to go to like 7th Street Entry and like the First Avenue and see music
Yeah.
there was really awesome.
What were some shows that you saw?
Oh my gosh. I went to like probably I tried to make a list once, but like my friend worked at a venue or a couple venues.
Oh, cool.
So she would always kind of like have the hookup to like get friends in to the shows. So we went to like a ton of shows, you know, to probably like hundreds, but
Amazing.
I'm trying to remember some of the ones that really stood out. I saw a couple Connor Oberst shows that were really
Oh my
Oh
goodness.
my gosh, yeah, okay.
With Bright Eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bright Eyes. And he played like on the campus, like I think as part of like a Get Out the Vote thing, he played like a solo stripped down set at like a place called Loring Pasta Bar, which was like really awesome to see him.
Pasta bar. I love it.
Love it.
Of
It's
course.
it's like a venue too, but it definitely the
They
name.
serve
It's a very
pasta,
funny
yeah.
name. Yeah. And I was really into Connor Oberst at the time, and so to see him like play stripped down with like a guitar there, I was like, "Is this happening?" Like,
You're
what?
like,
This
I
is-
have died and gone to indie heaven.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was stoked. So
Wow. Yeah. That's very cool. It's funny. Like when I feel like, especially when you're a musician, you like go to a million local shows, certainly. And like they do kind of start to blend together. But were you seeing a lot of local acts there too?
a lot of like a mix of both. Yeah. You know, Minneapolis has such a great local music scene, and there's so many like good artists that like one of the things actually this is kind of like cool was I saw Lizzo played.
Oh,
way.
Yeah.
Did you really?
She played at the library, like outside on
What?
this
Like the
little-
actual library?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or I think it was.
What year was this?
This was maybe 2010 or something.
Oh,
like that.
Wow.
So I didn't even know she had songs out back then.
I know. She played at the fucking
the
library.
library?
Yeah, maybe I'm thinking it was actually the Minneapolis Institute of Art. So it was like outside.
Yeah,
Cool.
that-
Oh, that's even
Wow.
cooler. Wow.
Yeah, and it was just like a little stage, you know, maybe like an inch or two off or like 4 or 5 inches off the ground, and she was just like out there killing it in the
Yeah.
middle of this like grass at
Get it.
By the fork with the cherry or whatever, the spoon with the cherry.
Yeah, near there. Yeah, so that's pretty cool to be able to be like,
Yeah.
to watch her like become everything that she's created and everything
Yeah.
that
she's
she becomes.
famous.
Yeah, right.
Amazing.
I wish I could find that video too, because I think I took a
Oh my
video and I
goodness.
was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then, 5 or 10 years later, she became,
I'm very late to the Lizzo party, but I am like way on the boat now. I'm like obsessed with Good as Hell.
Yeah.
But everybody I know is like, yeah, that song's been out for like ages. And I'm like, well, I just heard it. Okay.
it's still just as good today.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. So were you playing in a band? Were you kind of still doing the coffee shop thing?
I was playing in a band. This is a whole chapter I forgot about,
Oh,
actually.
no, please
But,
tell us.
So after high school and college, like the first year of college, I was kind of still going back and forth to Eau Claire a lot. And there was a group of people in Eau Claire like that I had kind of known through like the just like music scene-ish there. And like we would play like Molten Skate America, which is like a skate park that they would host like all underage shows too.
Aw.
And so
Like
I had,
skate like boards?
like some roller skates.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
even better. I was
that's
hoping
so
so.
fun, yeah.
Yeah, so I had met some of these guys through acoustic. I played an acoustic set opening for a hardcore show.
Yes.
They
That
had,
sounds about right for the small town.
That's the most
Yeah.
hardcore thing you can do, I think. Yeah.
No, you know what's punker than punk? Playing an acoustic set before a hardcore band.
Exactly. And I mean, to make it even better, my friend and I were playing together at the time. She would play keys, I would play guitar, and we did a stripped back version of Apple Bottom Jeans for
Nice.
this like acoustic set that we were
I love that. I fully love that, and I would really like to see a video.
I know.
I
you
hope that no
tell us.
video exists. But yeah, so anyways, I had met these guys through one of those shows and they posted that they were looking for a singer. And so I was like, my friend at the time, India, she was like, you should try out. Like, and I loved Paramore at the time. I was going through this, like,
Yeah.
I was really into like the pop punk thing at the time. And so I tried out for the band and I got in and we were called Motion Where You Go.
Love it.
We later became Cadence for a little while, but we played we played this like pop punk kind of music that we played around and we did like an EP and stuff, and it was a blast. I mean,
That
those
sounds really
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. Were you the Haley?
I was the wannabe Haley for sure. Like, but it was really fun, and like those guys were so fun to like play music with and hang out with, and we did like a couple like small tours. We like went out to Philadelphia to record our EP, and we were like so stoked because it was the guy who had recorded Starting Line, and so we like fundraised this whole EP and like played busked. We weren't old enough to be 21, but we would like busk out in front of the bars, and all the college students would like kind of like
Wow.
drunkenly tip us too much, and so that's how we ended up like fundraising for that EP. And
That is so cool.
Yeah.
so I took a year off in school to like do that for like a year, and then ended up going back. And
Is any Cadence online and stuff that we can just
You're like, I really
Yeah.
hope not. Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't mean to knock it because it was really fun, but everyone probably feels like that looking back on like stuff they made when they're 20.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
that's the
there's-
show, really.
it's a very lucky few who can look back to their like releases from
Yeah.
20 years old and feel like real great about it probably. But you also probably felt pretty baller like going, oh, we're going to go record in Philadelphia. Like that's cool.
It was pretty fun. Like it was just like to because it was like it was like friends too. Like just we're all like in a van and we're like driving across the country, and I don't know. We
Yeah.
took a lot of like videos and stuff, and sometimes those are fun to like look back on, just like goofing around and like
Yeah.
I have
mean,
a treasure trove of those, and I look back on them all the time.
yeah.
They're
I mean, I can just
so awesome.
imagine.
Yeah.
like that pure joy of like, we're doing it, guys.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
we're making a record. We're playing music together. Yeah, I love. I mean, I'm imagining. I'm imagining the inside of that van, and it's making me smile. But so did that? Like, how long did that band last for you, or at least your involvement in it?
It was it felt long, but I look back on it and it wasn't that long. We started probably this summer. I can't remember if it was summer before I went to school or the summer after I started school, but probably about 2 or 3 years maybe at the most, I think.
Solid for college.
Yeah, we did like all my freshman year, and then I think I took off for a year, and then so around 2.5 years.
And were you writing for that project?
Yeah, we would all kind of like that was that was one of the funnest parts. It's like we rented this practice space in like downtown Eau Claire that was really kind of just like a garage with like sheetrock walls and stuff, and we decorated it, and we were we were like, this is our space to like create and write.
Love that.
So we would go in there and like we'd have like band practice multiple days a week, which was really fun. And like, I think that's a period of time that I kind of miss sometimes. Like, I still get a chance to do that, but not as often as we used to when we were kids without like a ton of responsibilities.
Yeah,
I bet you guys got good practicing that much.
It was fun. I feel like we got really tight as a band because we could practice like 4 or 5 times a week, and no one was really like, everyone was just down to do it as often as possible. So,
oh man, that's beautiful. Yeah. So at that point, what kind of music were you kind of being drawn towards? What was like the direction you wanted to go in?
I think I was like, even I still have a super soft spot for like the emo pop punk stuff, but I was starting to feel like maybe pulled a little bit more towards like wanting to write like more acoustic-y kind of like. And after that, I really went into kind of like singer-songwriter world more than I had been before, like on my own stuff, I guess.
And by now, you must have gotten your own guitar, right?
You would think so.
The dean.
Still borrowing the dean.
But still borrowing the dean, yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Back to the dean. Yeah.
But the guitar that I did get of my own actually was gifted to me by my godfather who had made that mixtape.
That's a good shout out, Godfather.
Yeah, all right.
He gave me this Alvarez acoustic for my graduation present, and I was just like, I didn't even know what to say. I was like, what? I get like this is mine.
This
like,
is gold.
That's amazing.
You might as well have given me like a golden bar.
Yeah. I still like sometimes I don't even play that guitar as much as I probably should, just because I'm like I don't want to wreck it. Like I don't want to like So eventually that kind of became my guitar, and then I got a couple more like little ones over the years that I kind of play more often than I thought I would, but they're kind of nice because they're like light and small.
Oh yeah, like that one.
That's a little Cordoba.
Yeah,
very
it sounds
portable.
nice. Yeah.
I also have like I guess it's a 3/4. It feels much smaller than that. It's like for whatever reason, even though it's not that much smaller, it's so much easier to take places.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to that, just being like, oh, well, I can put this in the overhead bin on an airplane and take it to Ireland or whatever.
Yeah, I think like especially for like my hands are small sometimes, so I feel like it's easier to play. And then also when you said Ireland, was that just a top of the head example, or did you go to Ireland with your guitar?
Yeah, I did go to Ireland with my guitar, but
because so did I.
Same life.
Did you go to the Cliffs of Moher and just like sit down and play your guitar?
I wish I would have pulled it out there, but we went to the Cliffs of Moher and my guitar stayed back at the Airbnb.
It's windy there, right? You don't want to lose it.
I actually was gonna say like my sister tried to take a video and it was like so windy. The audio is just
it just sounds like trash.
Yeah.
Just
it's just all wind. But
Overdubs.
we felt cool. So
Yeah.
whatever. That's what counts. Yeah. But so you like were moving in a more acoustic direction. You played us a little bit of that like early song. Do you want to play us something from either Cadence or from like this period of time where you're kind of like starting to go into like singer-songwriter land?
Let's see. I guess Cadence, I wish I could play them on acoustic, but I actually didn't play guitar in that band. I
So you're
just
like,
sang.
I don't even know what the
I have
chords
no
are.
idea.
Sorry.
But there is a song, I guess when I first started getting into like singer-songwriter world, oh my gosh, am I even going to be able to remember how to play this? There's a song that I wrote that was on like a first EP one of the first EPs I ever put out as a solo artist. And let's see. Waves keep on crashing in, I'm bursting out of my own skin. I try to keep it in my head, but it all comes back, triangulate. Some weathered worse and still in the same place. So could you try a little harder not to boast when you see the shape I'm in? We both knew you'd be okay. I swore against it and I hate it when you win. But we were always too much too soon or too little too late. I gave my heart to you and my soul to fate. But these consequences are the kind you can't escape. And these memories
a great song.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
That is like a really beautiful song. I was listening to your lyrics and your rhyme scheme, and like I love Too Much Too Soon or Too Little Too Late. And I'm like, I can't believe I've never heard anybody say that before, because that's such a great pairing. But like, no, there were so many things, and there's like the whole, rhyming of escape and erase and all that. That's a great song.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
How long ago did you write that?
Maybe 2008 or 2009 or something.
Oh,
That
okay.
was post. No, was that pre-cadence, post-cadence?
Post cadence.
It was
right?
probably maybe at the same time, and then I didn't start really playing it or recording it until after. So maybe like 2000, maybe more like 2009 or 2010. I'm so bad with years.
Sure.
It all just blurs together.
Years,
Same.
Yeah.
It's like sometime around then.
Yeah.
I still think the 90s was 10 years ago. So
Same.
It
Yeah.
feels like that.
Yesterday.
so that's kind of from like the beginning of your sort of like iteration as a acoustic singer-songwriter,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many songs you'd written in that sort of idiom at that point, but like, yeah, like it's a really good song.
Thanks. You're making me feel like maybe I'll pull it out of the vault at one of these
You
next
should.
shows.
Yeah, why not?
You should.
You really should, because it's a funny thing too. Like for you as an artist, you're like, oh, this is old, but like your audience doesn't know that.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
Kind of like
actually,
the Lizzo song with Rose.
but also like, even if they do know it's old, they're probably still going to be real stoked. Like, oh, she pulled out
Yeah.
something special for us at this one, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Was there something about like the singer-songwriter acoustic intimacy that you felt drawn to? Like,
I think there was something about that. I mean, I was like, I mentioned like Conor Oberst. I was getting really
Yeah.
into like the Conor Oberst records at that time, and I felt like I really was drawn to how much like you could be vulnerable and kind of feel like there was like a match between that and the sonics of the rest of the instrumentation. Whereas like I really loved like playing louder music and like kind of getting a chance to jump around and like rock out and like stuff like that. But I think, it was also kind of nice to feel like there was a place for some things that felt like they couldn't really be like presented in that way as much. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it. But
here you are, post-cadence with your Alvarez, or maybe you've got like a smaller guitar by then, and you're playing coffee shops again, right?
yeah.
And then where does that take you?
I think I went from like doing like the high school like skate rinks, like coffee shops, talent shows, to like the college version of that was like the college talent show, or where the student union would host like a show, and like I auditioned and play, or a big gateway to like being able to play shows like in Minneapolis in general at like venues and stuff was an open mic that I went to a lot. And that was like super awesome. I met a bunch of friends through that open mic, and who ended up people that I would play with and who played on my songs that I did on like my EP, and we would play shows together. And that's kind of when I started kind of playing more around town, was through that open mic. Yeah, that open mic too was like really special. I feel like there was just like a lot of really talented like people that were just there doing it for fun, and like it was a really like warm, welcoming space. I've been to like a good number of open mics, and it doesn't always feel like that. I feel like it's like you have to get lucky with finding good ones where people are like. I feel into some where it's like more like, I don't know what the word would be, but
More of a tough room or something.
yeah, a tough room, or it's kind of like even some of them where they're like monetized, like you have to like pay to play. It wasn't like that at all, or like,
no.
Monetized open mics. That is the worst thing I've ever heard.
I know that sounds like a bad word.
No, I'm
Yeah.
like, gross. That is just...
But yeah, this one's a really special one, and
Nice.
it became a big part of like my like world in Minneapolis for like the time that I lived there. Like it kind of just like all my friendships and all of like the people that were part of like my community at that time were people that I met through there, which is really special.
Yeah.
Shout out to the open
Man,
mic.
Open
where
mic
was
and-
this open mic?
It was at a sake bar in Uptown Minneapolis called.
Wow.
I'm after all these years, after playing there, probably like I don't know 200 times. I still am not sure if I should say it Moto I or Moto E, because people would say it both ways, but Moto I open mic. And
Cool.
Well, hit us up if you're listening. Let us know.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, who's
they've
from Minneapolis? Let us
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I think they've since moved it to this place called Sociable Cider Works. So
So,
How did? I was
oh
gonna.
no, go ahead, Terence.
Well, no, I was just wondering because it sounds so lovely. Like, why did you ever leave? How did that happen?
I wanted to move to Los Angeles for a long time. And I think I started
How
planning.
come, by the way? Why Los Angeles?
I ask myself that question a lot.
We all do.
Well, to meet Eric.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Eric and I met in Minneapolis,
Oh,
as
what?
luck would have it. But
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
But I was like, after college or even in college, I was like, I know I want to go to a big city. For a while, I thought maybe it was going to be New York. And I did like an internship out there. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. This is, a great city, but it's not my city. And then I felt like I needed to come to Los Angeles. Also, I really hate the cold. Like I'm just, was insufferable.
Oh, it gets crazy cold. huh?
Literally
Yeah.
why I chose LA over New York.
Wow.
Pretty much almost the only reason.
Nice. Same life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that was a big part of it. It's like every winter I was like no fun to be around because I was like, you guys, why do we live here? It's so cold.
I was gonna say Minneapolis.
So anyway, I guess like that was kind of like a big part of it. And I wanted to be in like a city that was even maybe a bigger city, and like the idea of being close to the ocean, like it was so novel to me and so cool. And yeah, and then I came here, and even though it's hard and it kind of sucks sometimes, like there's definitely moments where I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I live here and that I like made the move and that it worked and like kind of,
You just
Yeah.
made the
And
move.
And then you're playing the Hotel Cafe.
yeah.
The world famous Hotel Cafe. I mean,
I love that
Oh,
place.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that last night actually, or not last night, Friday night we played, and like it was at the main stage, and it was the first time I played with a full band on the main stage.
Oh, great.
And I remember like watching Hotel Cafe from afar, like when I lived in Minneapolis. I like followed them, on the internet and stuff, and I was aware of like the Hotel Cafe, and I just remember thinking like, wow, it'd be so cool to play there someday. And like, Friday night, I was kind of like looking around at like all our friends in like that little backstage room, and I'd be like, this is happening. Like, this is so
I cannot
awesome.
believe this is my life.
This is so fun.
Did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So moving to LA had been like a thing in your mind for a while.
Yeah, I think I started planning for it like as I was getting ready to graduate college, like looking up neighborhoods and looking up like where I was going to want to be and stay. My family had actually just moved to Phoenix around the same time, so it was perfect because I always wanted to be close to them, and they were going to be closer to LA finally. So that really kind of is what made it possible. I think if they stayed in Wisconsin, I maybe would have never actually done it, even though I'd been like kind of dreaming about it. And so once they were there, I came out to LA, and I did like subleases in random parts of the city. I was working remotely, and I needed to kind of go back and forth between Arizona and LA a good amount, and so I couldn't do like a full-time lease, and so I found this like Facebook group where women, like inspired women of Los Angeles.
Was it Inspired Woman?
It was,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Shout out to that Facebook group.
They
Shout
have
out.
they have a whole subgroup for housing actually, which is pretty incredible. And I know a lot of people who've found their place that way.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I would like find these people who are like, oh, I'm going to, Bali for like a month. Does someone want to come live in my place? And I was like, I do.
Right, or I'm
Yeah.
going on tour or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, so that ended up being a nice way to get to know the different areas, and
Yeah.
then actually even make some friends too along the way, which like with roommates that were living with people who were away. So
Yeah. So where did you end up landing when you finally got like a full-time place?
The first full-time place I ended up getting was in Santa Monica. I had actually
That's super far from Hotel Cafe.
It is. And like my friends that, lived here were giving me such a hard time. They're like, why would you live so far away from everything? Like we're never going to see you again. Like this is
Yeah.
not a smart move. But I had like through the group, I had like found this place where someone was looking for a subleaser, and it was like a yurt in someone's backyard in Santa
Nice.
Monica. Like it was definitely more than someone should ever pay to sleep in like a yurt or like a tent.
Like basically
It
a
hurts.
tent. Yeah.
And I was like, part of me was like, why am I doing this? But it was a really cool spot where it was like, I was sleeping in this yurt in these people's backyards, and they had like a little garage that they converted into a yoga studio. And so like a lot of like good vibes, like in the place in general.
Yeah,
That says Cali.
that actually sounds very cool.
Very different
yeah.
than Minneapolis.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Like, welcome to California.
That's the most
Yeah.
LA thing I've heard in a while.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I can't even beat that. But no, I mean, but yeah, like definitely welcome to LA. You're in a yurt next to a converted garage yoga studio in
like-
Santa Monica. Like, yeah.
Mattress on the floor, like no heat in the tent. Like it was a little brutal at first, and part of me is like, what am I doing? But I don't know. They called it the soul nest, and like I was going through so much shit at that time where it was just like a really heavy time in my life, and like something about being in that place, like just like the energy that was there was like really calming and really like peaceful. Like everyone in the house, like no one had a TV, and no one like
Wow.
like it was kind of just like something that I had, like a living situation that I'd never really like experienced before, and it kind of like reset my brain in a way. Like, so I stayed there for maybe like 5 or 6 months, and then I came back a few months later after going to Arizona for a little while, and then I ended up getting like my own place later with a couple friends, like an apartment in the same neighborhood, because it was just kind of like I realized being close to the ocean was really nice for my head at that time.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, I know a lot of people who are, transplants from other places really gravitate toward the beach, and for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like you ended up in kind of a special place. And I think it sounds like you probably had a fair amount of privacy too, which I think when you're going through like an introspective time is really important. And a lot of people's early LA experience is very much informed by like roommate stuff, good or bad. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting that you like kind of just had this little nest, like this little kind of
Nurturing
Soul
nest.
nest.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It was like, and even just like we have a TV now. Like I
Sure,
wish,
yeah.
but like at the time, like not having a TV and like not really, just like it kind of forced me to like come face to face with a lot of stuff. Like there wasn't really a lot of opportunities to like escape my mind because it was so quiet there and it was so still, and like I'm in a tent and I was just like, someone left. The girl who had been in like the yurt before me had left the book The Power of Now.
Yeah. Shout out Eckhart.
Seriously, like it's such a cliche, but like she left this book there, and like I started reading it because it was the only book in the tent one night, and it just like couldn't stop. And then she came back to visit or something, and she was like, "You should keep that book. I feel like I feel like that book is yours." And I don't know, that book really helped me too at that time. Like, and that like quietness was really when I started writing most of like the record that I ended up putting out.
I mean, you kind of just had your own little writer's retreat, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was still working remotely, so they had this little office that I would go work in during the day, like kind of like a back patio that had like desks and stuff. And then after work, I would just kind of like hang out and play guitar and like write lyrics and song ideas and stuff.
And so that was like your most recent release?
Yeah, that's the From Where You Are was kind of, I started writing it there.
Yeah. So you kind of referenced a dark time.
Mm.
And, I did read about what your EP is about. So do you want to talk about the writing process of that particular record?
Yeah. That one was, I had started, I had put out an EP, and I really loved making music, and I wanted to make more music. And I kind of felt like it was something that I was drawn to doing, more, and as like something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be like a recording artist. And so after I released that EP, like I actually, my family, we lost my youngest brother to a drunk driver shortly after my parents had moved to Phoenix. And I was still in Minneapolis at the time. So it was, it was awful. I don't know really what else to say about it. But, my brother Cullen, and he was in a power wheelchair, and he was kind of like, the glue of our family. He just an amazing light person, and yeah, that was, it just hit our whole family like a ton of bricks, just destroyed our whole world. So I I stopped making music after that, I think. In a lot of ways, like, I stopped writing because I noticed when I would try to write, like, or I would kind of go into the space of like playing something new with chords, it would come up. It would be the only thing I could start to write about, and I couldn't face it. And I would end up with these like song starts that were half done, that were just really like a few words and then just like tears, like just me sobbing, So just like, it was just kind of like, I feel like I can't write about this and I can't write anything else. So maybe I just don't do music right, for a while. And I think like moving to Los Angeles, we had because my brother was killed by a drunk driver, there was also a whole court case that was involved in it. And that was awful, and also something I would never, wish on any person to go through, because, not only did we, have to deal with losing Cullen, we also had to like face it over and over and over again during all of these court cases, and so that's a lot of the reason why I needed the flexibility to go back and forth to Arizona, and kind of be around my parents' house more, and my brother too, my other brother Drew, and so yeah, I think once I was in LA and kind of had this like weirdly silent time in my life, it was nothing else to do. Like there was those years where 2 years where it was just like nonstop, like the court cases, the trying to just like, even the shock of all of it, kind of making your way through that. And then it was just nothing, like quiet. And that's when I kind of started to feel like I could start to get some words out and some words on paper. And even though I had these like half-written song starts and these words and stuff, I started to be able to kind of like finish them more and kind of go back in on some of those things that I hadn't really processed or hadn't really been able to like say, because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make music again unless I said it unless I just knew that it was a big part of like understanding those feelings for myself too, like working through stuff. It was kind of just like digging through everything that kind of got pushed down for a while. So
yeah, I'm so sorry.
Thanks.
But yeah, it's you were in a place of survival, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. I think.
And sometimes you have to get through that place, right? To get to a point where you can even handle examining it. Mm-hmm. Because especially it sounds like with, these practicalities, it's just, you can't add anything to that. Like, I just have to get through this. And I'm glad you finally got the space to then sit with it and be with it. And what you created is so beautiful. I mean, I am not kidding. Mm-hmm. I was sobbing over my breakfast this morning, and I'm actually crying again because you just did a really beautiful job of communicating your grief.
Thank you. That means a lot. And
I'm sorry. I'm like, I might have to edit this out. I'm being very emotional right now, but
No,
I really...
Please don't apologize.
Yeah, we all are.
I'm for real.
It really means a lot to know that like, it can be for someone else what it was for me. And I mean, that's like kind of looking back on it in the middle of the process of making the album, like my head was not in a really great place, even trying to put the words on paper, trying to record. There's so much like, what if I get this wrong? What if I don't say it right? Like, what if, people think something about, the way that I'm talking about this, just like going through like all those emotions in a way that felt so public was really like, like I don't, sometimes some days I was just like, why am I even doing this? This is so...
You're policing your own grief.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And then like that's really like the only thing that made it all worth it is to like know that, as cliche as it sounds, like that's the only thing that is like makes me glad that I did it, and makes me feel like those times of making it when even like I wasn't even feeling like sure of like what I was doing and stuff, I'm rambling.
No, you're
No,
not.
no, yeah.
Everything you're saying makes a lot of sense. I was reading about how you recorded at least one of the songs in a church.
Yeah, actually, bulk of the album we recorded at a church. My friend, the producer of the album, Jordan Ruiz, he had access to a church down in Irvine, where in the evenings it wasn't being used, like the atrium and like anything in the space. So I had like a shoestring budget. We did like a pledge campaign, which was also really awkward and brutal, and like it just like felt very public and uncomfortable in a lot of ways, but also like a ton of gratitude for the people that were like willing to help support it. But anyways, like shoestring budget, and he was kind of like trying to think of creative ways that we could do the album and he's like, well, we have this church if you're interested in trying to do it there. And I was like, definitely, like that, and that sounds like a really nice place to record. So he set up like the live room in the like the atrium or like the main part of the church. And we had these like sound panels set up, and there was a piano in there, and we could track guitars. And then he ran all the cables. He ran all the cables into like the cry room where the babies.
Oh yeah, I read that. I was like, "There's a children's cry room."
Yeah.
Apparently, it's
those are
like,
huge in churches.
Can it be an adult cry room?
that was
All-person cry room.
And like, you have to have a little bit of like levity when going into like this process too. So we would make jokes like, okay, well, let's call this Cry Room Studios. Like this is, like
That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, we recorded a large part of the album there, and then we finished it at another studio doing just like kind of some extra stuff at the Music Box in Fullerton.
That's very
which is now
cool.
in Idlewild.
Is that John O'Brien?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've performed these songs live now, right?
I have, yeah.
How many times did you have to play them before you could get through them without crying?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say before we recorded it, we played a handful of shows, and those were brutal. I think like they were not. I think there was like multiple shows where like I would like not be like I would get choked up and I couldn't complete a lyric or get through the song, and I would say after it got easier every time, but there's still times when it catches me off guard and it's hard. But I think now more lately, I'm able to try to just share the story and kind of I'm able to make it through them without that aspect of it, and sometimes that feels weird. And like makes me like feel strange, like that I can play them more easily now, and I'm like, well, why? And I think it's practice, and I think it's maybe just a little bit of even though it never goes away, it's less raw than it was when I first wrote them. And I think that that was something that I felt strange about too, like even even being able to play them more. But I would want that for somebody else too, who is in my position, to be able to feel like they can make it through those songs. And I guess, it's like that process of trying to like accept the fact that you can live in both like joy and grief at the same time has been like a big learning experience for me.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
100%. That, you can live in joy and grief at the same time. So, would you like to play one of those songs for us?
Yes. I will play From Where You Are. I can't fall asleep. I can't see it clearly. I can't fall asleep. Maybe when I wake, this will
tears in my eyes. Doesn't quite feel real. Baby, I'm just dreaming, but I'm not asleep. In the morning we'll stand in front of God in a church so empty, like Jesus just forgot. They say your name wrong and I'm feeling pretty lost. I wonder what this mess looks like from where you are. From where you are. In the evening, I'll be looking up at an Arizona sky full of stars. Useless wishes falling through the dark. I wonder if they're visible. From where you are.
Thank you.
That was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us and sharing your story and sharing your music. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really nice.
Thank you, Hannah.
Guys,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I started the waterworks. I couldn't help it. You know, when something terrible happens to you, if you're a musician or a creative, people will often tell you to use it to make art. And yeah, you will. But when you're in the middle of that grief, it's incredibly difficult to write, to create, to get through an episode of television without coming apart. So I just want our audience to appreciate what an achievement it is to write such an unbelievably deft and sensitive EP about loss that not only reflects your own experience, but that resonates with so many others and makes them feel less alone. And I really think she did just that. So Hannah, we salute you, and we truly cannot wait to hear your next release. If you want to hear more Hannah, and you know you do, check her out on Spotify and follow her on Instagram so you won't miss any release updates or touring news. We will put those links in the show notes, and we would appreciate it ever so much if you subscribe to our podcast on whichever platform you prefer. If you want to rate and review, we appreciate that too, but only if you say nice things.
Yeah, do it, please.
Thank you for listening. Tell your friends, and join us next week for our little chat with Chris Angeles.